Matt, is everybody okay? Everybody had a good new year today, and everybody's ready for 2021. Is everybody's businesses doing okay?
Yeah, businesses are doing fine. The public sector's particularly buoyant. It's just very uncoordinated.
Well, yeah. Tell me something I don't know. How's what's everybody's view of the construction playbook then?
It's very buoyant, and it's obviously the first sector which is leading the way with all workers on site, with almost back to the capacity it was before, really. And I think there's been some real positives around technology and new ways of working and kind of cultural change, which have been positive as well. So definitely ISG is seeing that, and we've been, obviously being a board kind of lead on Build UK. Yeah, they've seen it as very positive messaging.
Okay. Yeah, we have. Myself and another colleague in Graham contributed to a number of the playbook working groups, and there was a genuine sense of them wanting to try and do things slightly differently. That was being driven out of Cabinet Office. So we're now involved, and as I'm sure ISG are and others, with David Mosey's review of construction.
Yeah, and obviously the frameworks are going to be leading the way still as kind of getting that loyalty and continuity with the clients who are really starting to spend again, I think. So
yeah, I think you're probably right. You're probably right. So let's see. So okay.
Are you contributing to David Mosey's report as Bagabo, Gerald?
We are hoping to. Yeah, we've contacted him. So we'll be in the actual first part. I mean, funny enough, I know Fergus Harrington's quite well. I've got a meeting with him tomorrow, actually. In the first round of reviews, they spoke to the consultants and the construction sector quite widely.
Yeah.
But they only spoke to CCS. They didn't speak to Scape or us or anybody else. So they didn't really get a different view. As it happens, the view in the construction playbook we're actually quite happy with, actually, if I'm being absolutely honest with you. When they talk about the 14 key principles and the gold standard for frameworks, I would probably say we're trying to do that now, actually. If you look at some of the stuff we do, particularly, I mean, just this session we're doing here actually is an example of that, isn't it? It's about skills, competencies, and all that sort of stuff. I do think it's interesting because I think the government's own, and I spoke to somebody in the government, and they sort of agreed with me. I mean, I won't quote him, but he sort of said, well, the government's direction of travel through the construction playbook would actually render some of its own frameworks non-compliant. I mean, Procure, P20 and stuff like that, and CCS, they probably aren't compliant with what their aspirations are anyway. So it'll be interesting to see how that does. But yeah, we sort of we're hoping to get linked in with that. But we put in a response to some questions we've been asked. But we probably want to have a session with him as well, I think.
Yeah.
So yes, that's where we are. So well, Charlie just left the Zoom. I was going to get him to do this presentation actually. Where are you, Charlie?
Postman.
He just pretty disappeared, hasn't he? So what we're going to so we've been beavering away in the background. So I'm hoping Charlie can give us an update when he appears on the number of students we've got going through, and we'll also want to show you some of the stuff we're just about to release. So are you there, Charlie?
Yep, sorry about that. Perfect timing from Royal Mail.
Right, okay. Can you actually you sort of give everybody an update on where we are with the students on TFOC, and then can you just show the website that we're looking to do and talk through that?
Yeah,
and then
sure.
we'll talk about the education, the further college stuff, and also we'll give an update on the qualifications in terms of where we think they could be in terms of funding, which I think Jan might be able to. And if she's got any further information, we'll find that out. So do you want to tell us where we are, please, Charlie?
Yeah, sure. So I had a catch up with Gary at ProQual yesterday. So we've got about 20 of the people going through at the moment. Generally, sort of the majority of people getting on really well with them. They've been finding that some of the answers coming back on the workbooks have been spot on. People are really getting to grips with what the questions are asking. there's been sort of a recurring kind of theme of one of the questions, which I think we might need to sort of have a little think about entrepreneurship. I think people are sort of struggling with that one slightly, just because I think, you know, more of the junior staff are thinking, well, I don't run my own business, I'm not an entrepreneur. So I think that's where they're sort of struggling, but we can get around that. And then there's a couple who have maybe been a little bit slow out the blocks, who I've given a bit of a nudge. So I think I've copied some of you into a few emails going around just to kind of push them along a little bit. So they need to kind of get some information across to Gary, but they're quite few in numbers. But yeah, generally I think it's going very, very well. People seem to be really engaging.
Good. So, and they think they got, have we asked, because we said we were going to ask 3 surveys, didn't we? The beginning, middle and the end. Have we asked the beginning one yet, or?
We have not yet. No, that will be going out imminently. So
okay.
I think wanted to get because the first one's going to be very much about the enrollment and onboarding process and stuff and things like that. So we wanted to get everyone through that stage first. So
has everybody on the call seen the prospectus we produced? We produced a full prospectus for this, so hopefully you've seen that. So okay. So do we want to now just show what we're going to show you is we're putting together a content. You know, we hope it to be a classroom in a box or classroom in your pocket. So we're building some content and a way of delivering some content to people to support these 5 qualifications. So we're going to show you this. It's just not quite finished yet because we're going to have like a registration page, but if we just show you this will give you a bit of a feeling for, and it's going to be finished probably in the next sort of 2 weeks, we hope. So Charlie, do you want to talk us through it?
Yeah, sure. So this is kind of embedded in our future construction website, where it will be once it's all ready, which I think you've all got access to. So basically, when you want to be taking a TFOC qualification, you click on a tab which is on our future construction website at the top. It will take you to this page here, so you can register your interest. Obviously, the Latin will be changed to something a little bit more understandable for all of us. So this is all kind of this is all early stages, but it shows off how it's going to work and stuff, things like that. So you can register interest. That takes you down here, and you can fill in this form here. Well, very quick form, and that will basically go to me, and I can kind of get people signed up to their qualification as they need to do them. So then once they've done that, they go into a login page, and that's got kind of that's got the kind of forgot password stuff and all that kind of things as well, so they can get into that very your general normal login page. So they'll be met with this page then, which is their kind of welcome page. They can select their qualification down here. So these will be filled in with the future of construction qualifications, the level that they're going to be going on to. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, it all needs to be updated when it works with the actual qualifications. The way it's been built is we can input the qualifications ourselves, so we can change them however we like and things. So it's completely changeable later on for us. So once they've selected that qualification, they can then click on their roadmap, which takes them through the course really. So you can scroll down like this. First outcome or set of questions are here. So this would be a sort of information of what they're going to be learning. And then they click on that to get to their individual questions. So here, this would be your first question that you ask out of the qualification. Click on that, and you get a little bubble come up here. You've got your teacher here, and then you can get a little kind of hint here about what the question is going to be. So if we play that, I think it's not a hint. It's something coming up, but that'll be a recorded voice that comes in and tells them kind of where they might want to try and research to get their answer and things. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the moment. And then that will obviously then help them then to fill in their workbooks and get their qualification after that.
Okay.
Any sort of questions on that?
What do people think about that?
I think from my point of view, and I think Pam, you would agree with this. At what point you say that the request to do the qualifications, Charlie, could go to you. At what point are you going to do the skill scan? Because it's quite often that they will think I want to do a level 5 qualification, but you need to explain to them what they're able to do in the job role that they're in, and where's the induction in what you've got at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the information going to me is to give them access to that website, basically. in terms of the skill scan and the induction things, that will all need to be worked out separately with the assessor and things, and it will need to, they'll need to be enrolled via the normal processes that you'd go through. And then once they get to it, they will then know exactly what qualification they're on. So when they're picking a qualification, they know that they're doing level 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. They can look at the other ones. We didn't see any harm in them seeing, what a level 5 looks like if they're doing level 2. But ultimately, it's just kind of their exercise book to take them through the qualification and give them that kind of verbal and sort of visual way and journey through it, so that they can, it makes it just far more interesting and appealing than just looking at a PDF, basically.
I think to be fair, that what the journey that Charlie's just shown there, Jan, is for people who've already been through the skill scan and induction.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I think what we might want to do is just put a couple of little points about that in the journey. There's what Charlie didn't show you there is on our main Future Construction website. There'll be a button about take you to the learning materials, and we'll probably put like a little step in there. If you're interested in doing these, you need to do an induction or skill scan. Please press here, and we'll go through that process. So that was effectively for people who've already been through that. So imagine the 20 students that are already on it, that have been through, sat down with Gary, etc., and been through that.
I
think it's that.
Because essentially, that's your centre. So an individual or an employer, contractor, whoever is going to nominate either themselves or a worker to go on to your centre. So they're visiting, which is your virtual centre, rather than what they're used to at the moment, going to a physical training centre.
Yeah.
But I think where are you going to have it nested that they have to apply, they have to meet with an assessor who is going to determine, they have to connect them with somebody that can do that skill scan and do that, and if it's somewhere else, as you said, Gerard, where's that going to be? Because what they couldn't do is just go straight to the web and say, oh, let's have a look at the qualifications. I want to do that. I'm selecting level 4. That goes to Charlie, who puts them onto the qualification.
I think you've raised an interesting point there. So one, we're going to sit down with Gary and Helen next week and show them this, so we'll get a bit of an idea about that sort of journey. But I think the way I saw that was for people who have already registered for the qualification, who've been through the skill scan.
Right.
And that was then that was there to support their learning, So young person, one of the individuals who's going on it, for example, it gives them some support material so they know exactly what the course is. Because at the moment, what they'll have is they'll have had an assessment with Gary. They'll be looking at a prospectus about what it is and the actual qualification itself. But what they won't have is that classroom in a thing. So they'll be seeking the information from their from their colleagues and their peers. That there is some additional content to help them. So that's how I sort of see it. So I think your journey piece, I guess what you're saying is we're going to make it truly self-service. We put that journey piece in at the beginning as well.
We'd have to, because you're going to have to take Gary and Helen out of this equation, because they're only working on this pilot group. So whoever's going to be your assessor, Charlie, and determine what qualification and who's going to ask, who all the questions that they will have are going to be directed to, where did they find that, and how are you going to point them to the assessor that they're going to have? That's the bit that we need to be clear on.
Yeah, so what we actually want is a little bit of a user journey about, hey, so when you arrive there for the first time, you know nothing about it, what are the steps?
Yeah.
And then once you've been through that, you then go into the content piece. So I've made some notes. I think it's probably, once we've just got that journey there. I mean, as it happens, we've actually been through with Gary, and we've got some contacts now for assessors, because we're building, we still haven't answered Mick Grace's question he asked me last year, but we're almost there, which is what will these qualifications cost? So we've now got a process for assessors and IQAs from Gary. He's put us in touch with some individuals who can do that for us. So
right.
we've now got we've got the cost. What we haven't done is worked out what it means in for the RRP of the qualification. So we Charlie and I have done some work on that, but we just haven't finished it yet, because the next stage really is a little bit relying on you really, Jan, which is if we can get the ESFA stuff for any of them, 1, 2 or 3 or whatever, because if we can get that then brings in a level of funding as well.
Right, well, I think Helen should have, well, I know she sent you an email, Charlie, to say that they won't inform any of us. It's down, and this is how it works, it's down to you to keep going on the hub and seeing if those qualifications have been populated for funding. And
Is that what you do?
Pardon?
Is that what you have to do?
Yeah, they won't even tell us, Gerard. We've submitted them. We've put in our request under the exemptions under this moratorium. You will only get funding at this moment in time, hopefully for the level 1, level 2 and level 3. We've done as much as we can do. We've put that submission in, and it's down to you, the centre, to just keep looking. And you have to do that on a daily basis, because that's how funding works. Okay. It's an absolute, you know.
So one of the things we might want to do is put the people at the Learning Record Service on a customer service course.
Well, you can try.
Because they clearly don't know anything about customer service.
Many have tried before, and I don't think it's just how it works. It's not ideal, but yeah.
Right. There you go, Charlie. So that's a recurring reminder to go on the hub and see it. Because I presume once they're up and they're approved, that's it. You don't need to go back again. It's already done. Is that right?
No, for the duration of those qualifications, you know, that the funding will be there. But
okay, that's fine.
You know, yeah.
When you go on the hub, does it also tell you the level of funding as well?
It breaks it down for those qualifications. They might get the hub lists all the types of funding it accrues. So, for example, it might be 14 to 16-year-olds, it might be adults, it might be on the prison service, on the OLAS funding. There's apprenticeship framework, which there won't be on any apprenticeship framework, we know that for sure. But there's a whole list, and then it gives you the values, but then it's complicated. It's not straightforward, because it depends where you live, because there might be different weightings. There will be a set amount of funding that's attached, but if you live in central London, for example, you might get an uplift of funding, so you might get a bit more because it costs you more, cost of living, etc. If you're a disadvantaged learner, you don't hold any existing level 2 qualification, it's just a complicated nightmare.
You've made it sound real good, actually, Jan.
But
I feel really excited about it.
The plus side is, once you get your head around it, you will understand how it works, and colleges will know exactly how it works, because they spend their time on this, and they look at the funding. Sometimes in the wrong way, because, for example, they'll look at a qualification that might not be the best for the learner, but they look at a qualification that accrues the most funding. So it doesn't, you know.
Okay, so Charlie, that you got a little recurring reminder there. I think Pam was about to.
Yeah, I was just wanting to say, with this funding moratorium, the funding that would potentially be added to these qualifications will only be applied until the end of the funding year, which is the end of July this year, and we would have to apply again for the following year.
Right, so there's like a process you go through.
Just for that, while they've got this moratorium on funding. Yes.
Right. Yeah, we don't know when they're going to lift the moratorium. You know, that's anybody's guess. The best thing to do, what I used to do years ago, is if you go on the government website, Charlie, and you look at all the documentation, and you know, it's bedtime reading, you are talking like about 400 pages to troll your way through to get your head around it. It's they don't make it easy.
But it is in English.
Yes. Yes.
Good start. No, well, there you go, Charlie. Sounds like you're going to be an expert in government funding policy by the end of
it's worth doing.
2023.
You know, if you're going to sell
Are you sure it's worth doing, Jan?
It is, because you'll understand how it works then.
Yeah. And I mean, when you know, I mean, Rachel, I don't know, you might need to look at this as well, because if you're involved in marketing and who you're going to promote these qualifications to, for example, colleges, the first question a college is going to come back and say, well, are they funded? How much? For which groups? And you need to have those answers, you know, ready. It will sell them.
I think, I mean, Margarita's going to ask a question in a second, but I think the point is we're quite a way now. We're moving towards it. We've got qualifications. We've been accredited. We're going to get some funding. We're going to build up a journey. Within the next sort of 4 to 6 weeks, we'll probably have all of these things sort of solved. And I want to come back onto the school and the college piece in a second, but Margarita?
Yeah, just a question. Once
are you offering your services to find the funding, are you?
No, I'm not the right one to do that. No, I was just a question. Once you get the funding 1 year, is it likely that you get it the following year, or you have to start from scratch again?
Well, normally the funding would roll on for the duration of that qualification. But as Pam's just said, whilst we're in this moratorium, at the end of July, any qualifications that have been submitted for exemption under the current moratorium, we will have to reapply and put another case forward to carry it on. So at the moment, we have to reapply at the end of July. Normally, once the moratorium is lifted, the funding is on the hub, it will remain for the duration of the life of that qualification.
Okay. As long as there are registrations against that qualification and achievements, because if there are none, they'll
sweep it up to somewhere else.
Yes, they will, exactly that. They'll veer it. Yeah.
Okay, so that's fine. So look, it's like anything. Once you know the rules, the people who know the rules usually do better, don't they, than the people who don't know the rules?
But in terms of workload, to resubmit, you got loads of the information already, so it's not from scratch. That's what I'm trying to. So you kind of, if you've done the bulk of it, then the next year should be resubmit.
Yeah.
Okay, that's.
But it is very much dependent a second time on whether there have been people who have
applications. Yeah, makes sense.
For example, when Pam and I put the case forward for the level 1, level 2, and level 3. We looked at, although you can't put a link to anything, we looked and read about the DWP, the construction playbook, all the key elements that the government is trying to address at the moment in terms of construction, and we skewed the application that way. So and we ticked pretty much, I think, Pam, we ticked most of the boxes where we wrote it. You've got to be a bit canny in it, you know.
Strategic.
It's knowing that domain. I mean, I have been asked one question. Are there any sort of qualification points or criteria that any of these qualifications get?
You mean for UCAS?
Yeah.
No, none of ours attract UCAS points, and we've never really been approached for them because they are vocational qualifications.
Yeah, not academic. And the other thing is, UCAS keeps saying that they're going to be changing everything, and there's likely to be a different change in apprenticeship. It's just no. In short, we don't.
Answers that particular question. So I think one of the things we're sort of coming up with is we're creating the journey now, and there's a couple of little things to put in it, but I think we're nearly there on the journey. You know, we've developed a content website pretty quickly, and the benefit will be if we wanted to add more qualifications, we'll have a format for doing it, which will be pretty cool. So I think that's pretty good. Two things that came out from our last couple of conversations was, one, can we do a school-based qualification or an awareness or a taste? And I think that was something Karen, as you've mentioned before, Karen, and also an FE/college one. So where we've got level 1 to 5, you know, if we had a TFOC school and a TFOC FE type qualification, we talked about this, I think, Pam and Jen.
We did, and I can't see why that would be different from the lower level qualifications that are there already. It's just the setting that it would be delivered in, and
exactly.
the input and assessment would
I suppose the point. I get that, and we can call it school and college. We can come up with a different name, but I suppose the question is the level 1 relevant to what you do in school? I mean, I suppose the question is, do we need to decide what it is we're trying to do for the school? Are we trying to give school children an awareness session about the industry? So if that's the case, does the level 1 do that? Or if we tweak it, does it give it more? Are we trying to get them to think about structure? What is it we're trying to achieve? Because once we know that, we can design it. And then for me, if we work that out, we need to understand, are we registering the kids? Because, that would seem a little bit different to the process. And how are we going to deliver it? It strikes me that one of our ambitions that we set middle of last year was, how do we attract people into the industry and then never let them leave? The whole life of careers rather than a career for life sort of approach. So if we create these awareness qualifications, particularly at the school, do we then try and get them promoted and sponsored by companies? So I'm picking you, Karen, because you've said this a couple of times, and you're sat right in the middle of my screen. So ISG come along and say, right, we want to actually deliver this or sponsor it to be delivered to 10 schools in Birmingham or whatever, and do it that way. And then, TNT might do the same where else, etc., etc. Is that the sort of thing we're wanting to do for the school-based one?
Yeah, I'm listening. I was just writing a few notes as you were talking. The only blocker, I think, that we'll just have to review is, if we want to go that way, the first question that I was asked last week, it was me actually that asked about the UCAS point apportioning, because that's how then they get their funding. So as Jan was saying, around the schools, they get it on their outcomes and their predicted kind of grades, and it's an attainment level. So then the college gets it, their funding per pupil based on a formula, and so they'll just ask for, how does that relate to the specific qualification route? And at the moment, as a vocational course, it doesn't apportion, say, like 56 UCAS points is an A-level equivocal. So that's just how they'll do it to measure. And then only last week I had to, Jan, you probably know as much as I do, there's a government online reform at the moment of all level 3 or BTECs. Well, ours is an A-level equivocal, the level 3 that we run, which is lucky, because any BTECs are going through a reform, and then sadly the government can effectively cut off funding for those, so that they only leave the T levels, the A levels and apprenticeship route as the 3 pathways.
And that's probably what they're aiming for, Karen.
Yeah, so that's their
you can see the writing on the wall, can't you? Yeah.
For Wales, except for Wales, because Wales aren't doing T levels, they're doing GCSEs and A levels, but that's how they're going to do it. So they've opened it up at the moment for all industry to comment, and then that's the 3 pathways they're going to go. So I've apportioned our one obviously to an A level. I just think we'll find it very difficult if we're now trying to look at courses which are going to be other than those 3. For schools and colleges, I think we'll come off until we know the outcome of this from the government, which is what they were saying about, because they're saying there's so many different courses, they want to refine them so that it's clear for the journey of the student and the tutor, which I do understand. And that's the 3 pathways.
Right. Well, I think there's a couple of things here that I would say. You've got schools and you've got colleges, and they're 2 very different organisations. So the young people that you are aiming, whatever qualification we deem appropriate, it's whether they're still in a school environment or whether they've moved from school and gone to a college. In the school environment, we have in the past, I know training providers that have worked within schools, and it's been predominantly using vocational qualifications for disaffected children from the core curriculum. So instead of just having them all sat in one classroom, being probably quite unruly and having absolutely no direction whatsoever, they've tried to pick some vocational qualifications that would be appropriate for them to undertake within a school environment. So you're looking pretty much at or they can visit maybe a training provider where they've got maybe, I don't know, for example, if they're learning how to do plastering, for example, they might go to a training provider on a one day from school and learn how to do the plastering, and that training provider would assess them. Now, I know there is, or there used to be, a pot of funding for schools for that particular client group. So that's one thing. And colleges aren't too dissimilar. What the government will look at is they will consider appropriate vocational qualifications to be undertaken both within schools and colleges if they feel that realistically, when they leave school or college, it will lead them towards employment. Because they can have them trying to do the maths, their English, the geography, the history in schools forever and a day, but they're never going to get there. So let's look at something that gives them a chance in life that they can do vocationally, not academically. And that's where the government will look at and consider funding. And I know schools have pots, they plead poverty, but they do have pots of money for that particular client group. I don't know if that's helpful or not.
Yeah, there's SEND access to funding. There are some, and it's done on a per pupil funding. So you are right. I think thinking positively, I think we could get some of the course material, even if we had to sort of pull it apart and deconstruct it. We could use it at some of the events such as Apprenticeship Week, Science STEM Week, and we could look at some of the modules to roll out. So therefore, we would still have a real impact. But actually we're engaging with the young people throughout different points of their curriculum in schools at an earlier time, because it won't be, as it's set up at the moment, a vocational course. It won't lead to an outcome in terms of a qualification, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't lead to an outcome in terms of learning. Yeah. So I think we could still deconstruct it, which is what I'm doing for some of the T-level support that I'm doing. So I'm pulling out some of the modules of the level 3 of R1, and I'm supporting the schools and colleges for T-levels.
Well, there are some qualifications that, because one of the biggest things for these young people is the fact that they actually achieve something. So whilst they might not be able to achieve a full qualification, if, as you say, Karen, you're deconstructing, destructing, that sounds like you're destroying them all, obliterating them all together, deconstructing them, you might be able to put some training together that would fit a unit, and you could offer them unit certification, so they actually get a certificate, an official certificate at the end of it.
Yeah, it's just how you do the course. So for instance, if you devise it so you can get unified qualifications, that's great. For level 3, you had to do all the 4 modules to get the overall 56 UCAS points at the end of it, which is an A-level equivalent. But yeah, I'm sure you could do it. Yeah, Gerald, you just need to work out how and at what points, you know, do you want to have that touch point with the schools? And I think you go through, they've got careers team, curriculum team, so you'd have to go that route.
Okay, so we've got like a website developing with content in there now for level 1 to 5. If we develop a school one, we can modify that and just have the school bits in there. What we need to know is how we're going to target them. Are we going I suppose the thing to do then, Karen, would be to speak to a couple of schools and just check it out. You know, instead of trying to launch. Would that be the best way, you think?
Yeah, definitely. Yes, and then you'll see then how the school system works in terms of there's quite a lot of bureaucracy, how they put forward various courses. They have to evidence why there's a need, and then, as you say, it all comes down to the take up of the pupils even doing that course. Yeah. So, but yeah, I can give you a friendly teacher that I've been engaging with who'll be able to talk you through the process of how you'd look at aligning it. But they would definitely want to know, and the parents would too, that it was mapped towards not just a vocational, but what did it look like? So what will the kids get at the end of it? Even
yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Well, I was going to say, do they? Is there such a thing as general studies anymore?
I don't know actually. I don't know. There wasn't when I was at school, yeah.
Well, when I was a kid, you had general studies, and basically it was anything from whatever the teacher wanted through to, just tossing it off. Actually, it was a fairly broad church. But now I don't know whether this could count in towards that, because I'm not so sure a construction GCSE is where we're going.
I think the one thing you have got in Wales, Gerard, is the Welsh Baccalaureate,
Okay.
which is probably the most akin you've got to general studies.
Right. Okay. So
the biggest issue you have with it is that, well, it is a qualification, but HE doesn't tend to recognise it as such.
I think one of the key factors, I would say, is look at it the other way around. Get a couple of major employers on board and say, for a young person in school that isn't taking an app, what would you like to see as a demonstration of competency that you would consider interviewing them at the end of the programme and what they achieve towards employment, and then that will determine what the qualification would be for the young person, and would be an advantage for the school or the college, because it would meet an employer's requirements. It's not just what they think is a good idea or somewhere else to put them. And there are programs like that running at the moment, and they are very successful.
You might have to look at like a level 3 apprenticeship, because for instance ISG do 5 and 6, and that's all based on the set criteria for ISG to even get their funding per apprentice. So they have to have, for instance, 3 A levels. There's very strict qualifications that they have to get. They have to have English and maths at a GCSE level to even get through the programme application. And then there's hundreds and hundreds of people. It's just closing tomorrow, the applications that will apply.
okay.
Well, the level 3 is the advanced apprenticeship, isn't it? Well, they've changed now. They're not strictly what they used to be, is that they're on these new frameworks, aren't they? But
What do we have to do then? Well, that's what I'm trying to work out. What is it we have to do? Do we need to work with you, Karen, and take the documents we got?
I don't think it would be my level of expertise, because we had to work with WJEC as the awarding body. You have to do it the other way around. We had to work with the awarding body to then see the criteria. It was set up completely as independent. So in this case, it would be ProQual, wouldn't it? And then look at how that could be adapted or not for schools. I would say you're going to have to start with the awarding body to understand. So you must have your representative. I've got my representative that I deal with in WJEC, who's gone through that criteria. Just ask them, how could you start to roll out a level 1 and 2, which would be earlier engagement, so age 14, to students at school? How could you do that, and as a vocational qualification? And then what's the route to do that? And is there such a course? And they'll give you, like for instance, so they'll tell you already all the qualifications that are already in the market that are like that.
Well, then but that's the job of the training provider. That would be yourself, Gerard, to work with that, because what you would do is, there used to be, I don't know whether they're still there, things like the ASDAN qualifications, and there's a whole remit of qualifications that schools can have. And if you take the TFOC qualifications and map those into what schools are currently able to do, which can be done, and it can be done quite easily, then that would determine what qualification ProQual would need to put, that the school would be able to take and would gain the funding for it.
So okay, so what we need to do then is, I wouldn't mind having a conversation with these people then, just to have a look at that. We can show them, but we can show them what we've currently got and what we're doing, and then just ask them for their advice. So can you introduce us to that individual then, Karen?
I could introduce you to the Welsh one, which would be different. You've gone through a different awarding body, haven't you? I'm just looking back at the one that we deal with is called WJEC, which is the acronym for Welsh Joint Education Committee. But your awarding body is different. I thought it was
ProQual, no, Ofqual.
Yeah, so you'd need to. I haven't got a contact in off. It's ProQual is yours, isn't it?
No, well, yeah, that's Jan.
But we're regulated by, you see, you've got, England is regulated by Ofqual, so we're regulated under Ofqual. Welsh has got your own, Northern Ireland has got their own, And obviously Scotland has got SQA, which is a separate thing altogether.
So do we need to speak to Ofqual then? Is that what we're saying?
Not really. I would say you need to determine what schools, if we're looking at schools first rather than colleges, I think you need to look at secondary schools and what qualifications they're running and able to run outside of the core curriculum.
Right. So we need to find some schools and possibly colleges who are interested in working through this with us to see if there's an application then.
And they would be interested because, I mean, they're always looking for positive outcomes and you know, they need to have a progression for the kids leaving school, which isn't always done through academia.
Okay, that's right. So if that's the case, I might as well do that with some schools local to us, only because it's easier geographically for me.
Yes.
You know, just easier. So I can contact Hull College because I'm one of the things that I've spoken to the principal. We've got a new interim CEO. We've had like 5 CEOs in not in as many months, but in 12 months. Anyway, there's a new guy who is willing to. He would like to get me in front of some of. There's actually a group in colleges that looks at construction. You know, they look just at construction, so they have sort of themes in colleges: hair and beauty and construction. Excuse me, and lots of different things. So he said he's going to put me in touch with that, and I know the FE Commission as well now, and the Minister Gillian Keegan. So I'm going to try and pursue that. So I can do the colleges piece, but on a school then, Charlie, we might just need to contact some local schools. I've got quite a lot of contacts at local schools in and around Hull. Well, Multi Academy Trust actually. So what we're talking about is going to see them or speaking to them and just showing what we're doing and then seeing how they would fit it into their curriculum. That's what we're saying at this stage? Are they going to link it?
Mapping or understanding the mapping? Like I could give you, if you were to do that from your side, I could give you a friendly teacher that I've been working with, tutor that's been working with, say, the course that I'm running, and just say, what level do you think that would be at? How would you start to go through the journey? How would you get qualification status? You could do that just as a start.
Well, why don't we do two things then? Or on the school level, we'll contact some people I know, but the person you're dealing with, Karen, because that gives us 2 different perspectives, which is always useful. And then on the college side, Charlie, we'll speak to some people in the college, which I can deal with. So I think, and then what we'll do is, so we'll obviously need the actual qualification, our prospectus, our little website, and what have you, and then that'll give us everything we need. Okay.
Yeah, is the rationale behind it to leave behind a legacy, or are you going to do this going forward as an offer to clients, i.e. a paid offer in terms of a qualification? Because otherwise they're going to have to apportion their funding. So I don't understand what your end goal is, to be able to understand what the picture is.
So you mean generally for TFOC learning, you mean? Well, my end goal is, or our end goal is to work out if this is something the industry wants and is going to buy or wants to enhance itself, then Pagabo wants to be in the middle of it. So Pagabo, you know, our whole idea of the future construction is one of 3 things: cuddly feeling, thought leadership, taking the industry forward, and are there opportunities to actually grow our business? You know, so, you know, in the same way as everybody is. So, and for us, I think learning is so fundamental to the change in our sector. We probably should be involved in it, because you know, it isn't the natural extent. Most procurement companies wouldn't do what we do. You know, if you look at what we do generally, we do things quite differently to other procurement companies. And you know, and if you look at what the construction playbook is actually saying, you know, it's saying, you know, program, it's saying all that sort of stuff, but it's also saying qualification, competency, and all that sort of stuff. So now somebody's got to take a role in that. Now, one of the things we can be, Karen, is, you know, you've already seen it. We've done more as a group of people in 6 months than certain organisations in our sector have done in 6 years. You know what I mean? So I want to continue with that. You know, we are fortunate enough to be able to invest in stuff like this, and if we can bring some qualifications to the market, and whether or not it's a paid for or whether it's subsidised if you're a Pagabo ecosystem player, I haven't yet decided.
You could link it. I'm trying to understand the angle, how you're going in. You could then link it to efficiencies as part of the framework, so that then you're looking at, if there was a school procured through your framework, then it could be linked to the efficiency model and legacy. I just didn't understand how it linked. I do understand now. So that's how you can link it. When you're selling and marketing, you're going to have to link it to, that's what you're doing as a framework. So yeah, and on the selling of it is about going in earlier, looking at that continuity between academia and industry, isn't it then, really?
Correct. That's exactly
okay,
right.
I get you. Right. Okay.
So, and and this is part of our overarching, sort of approach, really. So yeah. So that's the answer. Okay.
The other thing, Gerard, that historically is of interest is you need to be looking at that, particularly with schools now, because they will start to put their prospectus for the curriculum that they're delivering from September out there by July at the latest. So any talks need to be about now, so that they can have time to build that into the prospectus.
Yeah, no. I'm quite happy with that, and I think if we get talking to your contact, Aaron, and then Charlie, I'll have a session with you afterwards, you and Rachel, about exactly where we go with that, because I've just made some notes about the engagement process. Just the journey. There's a couple of things on the journey which I think we can top and tail. I found the notes, and then I think we can also. I think we just need to do this school piece and this college piece. So yeah, okay. Anybody else?
Fine. Yep.
Anybody else got any other points? We've just
nothing. Thanks, Gerard.
Yeah, but I think we're moving quite nicely. So I still have to answer Mick's point, but Jan's just made it a lot more complicated for me now. I was hoping somebody would say, "Oh, the funding is X," so I just take X off the cost and give Mike a price. But it sounds like I've got to go headhunting at NASA to find people who can actually do it for me. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it depends who the individual is. It really is a complicated thing.
All right, that's fine. Well, yeah, should have told me that 6 months ago. Who's old enough to remember the adverts for TFOC?
Oh, God, yes.
I need to go and find some TFOC scientists.
Yes.
Anybody can remember that? All the young people on the call are going, "What the hell is he talking about?" Google TFOC scientist advert afterwards. But there you go. So, interesting enough, I had a call, quite a good call yesterday with Charlie, with the Open University. I don't know whether you guys are aware of this, but the Open University are thinking about moving into built environment qualifications.
Into what? Sorry.
The built environment construction qualification.
Oh, right. Okay.
They don't normally do anything in this space, and they typically operate at level 6 and above. But they are thinking about. Obviously, it comes back to my point, which I said a little bit earlier, Count, which is, I think if you're going to change a sector, make it more attractive to future employees and adapt to the way we're all changing, you have to put learning and skills at the centre of that.
Everything comes back to academia and learning when you look at it, coming back down to legacy. But I think they could easily adapt Open University, because that's how universities have done their online learning now for the last year and a bit, isn't it? So they're having to adapt their models, I think.
Oh, but I'll tell you what, the OU people, it was quite interesting. I mean, they've obviously been doing it for years. They are way ahead of traditional universities. Well,
the College of Estate Management's been doing remote learning in the built environment for decades.
Yeah.
It's interesting. There are a number of models out there, Keith. It just happens that schools and certain universities have taken it upon themselves to cry wolf a bit on it. But anyway, we are where we are on that. So anyway, okay, that's fine. Okay, so that was my point on that. What else do I have on? I think that was my agenda or my points. Anybody else got any other points?
No, nothing at the moment.
So I think we're moving quite nicely. So I think the next stage is to get some feedback, Charlie, from these qualifications, actually in Survey Monkey Land or whatever it's called, and tidy up. And then if we can just finish off the website and a few bits and pieces, talk to the schools and colleges, which we'll get into the diary. Then I think we're at the next level. So is everybody happy with the progress we're making?
Yeah, definitely. And I think speaking to Gary yesterday myself, he just said for me personally, because I said it would be good for me to do the course and to learn along the way. And he said, I'll just get a few of those questions sent across so you can see the levels. And he said, then you'll start to be able to populate it fairly easily. So I think it's just doing the first, and just applying it to what we're actually doing in our job role at the moment.
Yeah.
So hopefully I'm going to do that in the next few weeks.
I think I might do one as well, actually.
Yeah.
Would I be able to get straight into level 5, do you think? Or
Probably, yeah.
I'll have to get Pam will tell me I have to start at the bottom or something. I can answer the entrepreneur one, Charlie. I can give you some content on that one.
Yeah. I thought you might like that one.
It's my life for the past 25 years. There you go. Right, okay. So right. So next date, please, Charlie. Do you want to get some date ideas into?
Yeah, we're looking about a month from now. Do you reckon then?
Yeah, I think so. That would have achieved quite a lot by then, I think.
So we could do, well, as it's February, we can just do the Thursday the 18th again in March, if that suits everyone.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, same time, 12 o'clock.
I'm happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'll get that sent around then.
Yeah, that works for me as well.
Okay. Then, okay, good. So that deals with that. Okay, yeah. That's fine then. Okay. Anything else? Yeah. Anything else off anybody, or? I lost everybody?
We were following up on the DWP, but that didn't come to fruition. But if you wanted to go and look at obviously the joining up piece, but I think that will happen as the outcome of the qualification. That's then linking in with actually jobs when young people have come out with their qualifications, and then linking that into obviously the job market. But some time ago I'd emailed the DWP, hadn't I, and said I'll come back to you and let you know the outcome.
I mean, I'm seeing Fergus tomorrow. Is there any questions you think I should be asking Fergus tomorrow? Fergus Harrendance. He's the guy behind the. Well, he's like the flag bearer for the construction playbook, isn't he?
Yeah, it's just about ready skills that it goes back to the point that Jan's making about skills and the entry levels that then companies are looking for at the moment. So either the company is going to do bespoke training courses for their industry, or still look at qualifications which are at a certain level to then go into industry. But it's having the right skills, isn't it? So it's all about matching skills with young people into industry.
And what the industry themselves wants.
Need and want.
It's like building a really good CV for a young person to take to a potential employer that they're not expecting to see maths and English at grade B or something. It's what's appropriate for that industry that will want them to look at that young person and consider interviewing them. From the young person's point of view, it's got to be, and it goes back to something you said in the early days, Gerard, that the young person doesn't think that they're just going to go and learn to be a brickie and that's it for the rest of their life. Yeah. They need to know that when they go into this, they might start there, but they've got a career opportunity open to them exactly the same way as somebody going to university, just by a different mechanism. So it's looking at all those things, and I know employers will be looking very favourably that anybody that's got the mental health awareness threaded into this, because that's particularly for the construction industry, because that's a really key factor.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, and I also think in the schools that they're looking at, the kind of mental health awareness training, which obviously is enormous, as Jan said, but also how you can link it into the the careers team, so CVs, mentoring what employers look for, social media, how to present themselves, how to research organisations, and that's almost like the part just before the apprenticeship. So when people come in and apply to our apprenticeships, you've expected them to have done that, but have they actually got the skills to have done that themselves if they haven't got role models in life or they haven't got a strong curriculum team to show them that?
Yeah.
Oh, bring the old job clubs back. I mean, that's exactly what they were for. And they worked. That's exactly, how do you sell yourself to an employer? That's what it's all about, you know, and that's the bit that schools, well, anyway, that's another story, but anyway.
All right, so okay, that's fine. So in terms of Ferguson, I'm going to tell him a little bit about what we're doing. I'm not going to tell him everything we're doing because, you know, he'll then claim it's his idea. But, I think linking in the, I'm asking him about the skill, you know, the funding piece really, because it's interesting because if that's an interesting point about if there's a moratorium on funding. In the one hand, they're saying we want to invest in funding. The second thing is if there's a moratorium, how does that work then?
I think they're trying to streamline because there's an awful lot of qualifications out there that are on the hub that do get funding, but nobody's utilising them. So they've kind of allocated an amount of funding to a load of qualifications that are never going to be utilised. Yeah. So they're trying to say we only want to have funding against those qualifications that are going to get registrations onto them, and also that fit in each category, in our case construction, the exemptions for this moratorium, that they are worth putting funding against because they fit, you know, they will lead to employment, they do, and they tick certain boxes. So that they're just trying to, it's about the government giving the funding to colleges and training providers, but then they claw it back when they're short of money and they only want to give it out to what they think is going to be a positive outcome for the college or the training provider. Yeah. That's how it works.
No, I get that. Okay. All right, well, let me speak to him. If there's anything juicy comes out of it, I'll send a note around to everybody, but if there isn't, I won't. So, okay. All right, good. I think I know what I'm doing. Okie dokie. Anybody else? So, so at least Keith can't send me photographs of him in the pub watching rugby anymore, can you, Keith?
Not just at the moment, Gerard.
But I think if you're right, I might be sending you one before you send me one.
Oh, there's no doubt they'll open up across the border before they do here.
So I'll make sure I do then, Keith. All right, good. Okay, anything else from everybody?
No, Gerard, if next week, if you have some time, if you could just email me regarding the other things that we were discussing before, I could just do with a bit of a catch up on that.
Yeah, I'll find some time. Shall I might come and see you or something.
Yep.
Okay, all right, so I'll find something on that. Okay,
thanks.
All right, gang, super duper. All right, I will see you all soon.
Thank you.
Right. Oh, Charlie.
Yes.
Charlie.
Yeah.
I was going to say, do you want to just stay on and we'll just go through these points?
Yeah, can do.
Going to get Rachel.
Bring her
Sorry,
back in.
I forgot to say Rachel.
I lost my audio for like 10 minutes in that, so
yeah.
I'm hoping. All right.
So a couple of things. I think Jan made a couple of good points on there. The registration journey.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of things for me. One is I think on the website we should be able to. Some people should be able to download the user guides.
Yeah.
And do the user guides, are they the qualifications? You know, I mean, ProQual are big on this qualification document, aren't they? Which is a pretty shitty looking document, if you ask me.
A skill scan thing.
The skill scan, yeah. So what I'm thinking is any documents that are part of the journey should be on there. So
yeah.
what I'm sort of thinking.